The moment I hit send on that fake profile, my life spiraled into a chaos I couldn't predict. I, Brandon Carter, a lanky 20-year-old art student with a knack for digital mischief, thought I'd outsmarted the system until it outsmarted me. What started as a prank to mess with the biggest jerk in my college, Nate Sullivan, had now trapped me in a web of lies, emotions, and a truth I wasn't ready to face. It was a crisp fall evening in Brooklyn, the kind where the air smells like leaves and ambition. I was holed up in my cramped dorm room at NYU, my laptop glowing with the fake Instagram profile I crafted, Lila Evans, a fictional dream girl with a curated feed of sunset selfies and witty captions. The plan was simple: lure Nate, the cocky lacrosse star who'd been tormenting me since freshman year, into a humiliating online flirtation, then expose him. He'd call me freak one too many times in the cafeteria, his smug grin burning into my memory. This was revenge, pure and simple. Creating Lila was easy. I used stock photos, a touch of Photoshop, and my own sarcastic humor to build her persona. She was confident, flirty, and just mysterious enough to hook someone like Nate. I sent him a follow request, expecting him to take the bait. He did within hours. His first DM was predictably sleazy. "Hey, cutie, what's your deal?" I smirked, typing back as Lila, weaving a story about being a transfer student who loved art and indie music. Each message was a chess move, pulling him deeper into my trap. But something shifted. Nate's replies grew less cocky, more genuine. He started sharing things: his late-night runs through Central Park, his obsession with old vinyl records, even his struggles with his dad's expectations. I'd expected a shallow jock, but these glimpses of vulnerability caught me off guard. By week 2, I was spending hours crafting Lila's responses, not just to troll him, but because I was curious. His words felt real, and that scared me. One night, he sent a voice message. His voice, low and warm, said, "Lila, I know we haven't met, but talking to you feels like the best part of my day." My heart did something weird, a flutter I didn't want to name. I stared at my screen, my prank unraveling. This wasn't supposed to happen. I was supposed to humiliate him, not feel whatever this was. I told myself to pull the plug, to ghost him and move on. But then he asked to meet Lila in person. Panic hit like a freight train. I couldn't show up as Lila. She didn't exist. But I also couldn't stop. I was in too deep, and Nate's growing affection was a mirror reflecting parts of myself I'd buried for years. The next day, I saw him in the cafeteria, his broad shoulders hunched as he laughed with his teammates. For the first time, I noticed the way his green eyes softened when he thought no one was watching. I hated how much I noticed. I hated that I wanted to know more. This was no longer just a prank. It was a collision course with truths I wasn't ready to face. The plan was unraveling faster than I could control. Nate's texts, as Lila, grew more frequent, more personal. He'd send pictures of his dog, a scruffy mutt named Max, or ramble about his favorite dive bar in Williamsburg. Each message chipped away at my resolve, blurring the line between Brandon, the guy who hated him, and Lila, the girl he thought he was falling for. I was drowning in my own deception, and the worst part? I liked it. I started noticing Nate everywhere, on campus, at the library, even at the coffee shop where I worked part-time. He'd walk in, all confidence and charm, ordering a black coffee with a smile that made my stomach twist. I ducked behind the counter, pretending to be busy, but my eyes would linger. He wasn't just a bully anymore. He was the guy who'd confessed to Lila that he felt like a fraud sometimes, hiding behind his jock persona. That honesty haunted me. One night, I made a mistake. Nate sent a DM asking Lila to video chat. My pulse raced as I typed. Sorry, bad connection tonight. It was a flimsy excuse, and I knew he was getting suspicious. He'd started asking pointed questions where Lila lived, what classes she took. I fed him vague answers, but the walls were closing in. I needed a new plan, fast. That's when I roped in my best friend, Marcus, a theater major with a flair for dramatics. Over pizza in our dorm, I spilled everything. His eyes widened, then narrowed. Brandon, you're playing with fire, he said, shaking his head. This guy's going to find out. And when he does, it's not going to be pretty. But Marcus, ever the enabler, agreed to help. His idea, stage a chance meeting where I'd pretend to bump into Nate as myself, not Lila, to gauge his reaction. The next Saturday, I spotted Nate at a campus art fair, his tall frame weaving through the crowd. My heart pounded as I approached, sketchbook in hand, feigning casual. Hey, Nate, right? I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He turned, surprised, then flashed that disarming smile. Yeah, Brandon, from art class. I nodded, shocked he even knew my name. We talked, awkwardly at first, but then it flowed. He asked about my sketches, genuinely curious. I caught myself smiling, forgetting for a moment that I was supposed to be Lila's puppet master, not his friend. When he mentioned Lila, saying he was kind of into this girl online, my stomach dropped. I mumbled something non-committal and bailed, my mind a mess. That night, Nate texted Lila, met this cool guy today, Brandon. He's got this vibe like he gets it. I stared at the message, my heart racing. He was talking about me, the real me. The prank was supposed to expose him, but now I was the one exposed, caught between who I was and who I'd pretended to be. The line between Brandon and Lila was blurring, and I was losing control. Nate's messages to Lila grew more intense. He'd write paragraphs about his dreams, his fears, even his past. He admitted he'd been a jerk in high school, using his popularity to mask his insecurities. Each confession felt like a punch, dismantling the image of the bully I'd built in my head. Worse, I was starting to like him. Not just as Lila, but as Brandon. I tried to pull back, to remind myself this was a prank. But every time I saw Nate on campus, my resolve crumbled. He'd wave, call my name, and I'd feel that stupid flutter again. One afternoon, he showed up at the coffee shop, lingering after his order. You ever feel like you're hiding something big? He asked, his green eyes searching mine. I froze, nearly spilling espresso. Yeah, I managed. All the time, I needed to end this before it imploded. Marcus, ever the voice of reason, suggested I come clean. Tell him the truth. Brandon. Ripped the Band-Aid off, but the thought of confessing terrified me, not just because of the prank, but because of what it might reveal about me. I'd spent years dodging questions about my sexuality, brushing off feelings I didn't want to name. Nate was forcing me to confront them. Then came a bombshell. Nate texted Lila, asking her to meet him at a rooftop bar in Manhattan for a real date. My hand shook as I read the message. There was no way out. I couldn't show up as Lila. But ghosting him now felt wrong. I was in too deep, tangled in feelings I hadn't planned for. Desperate, I decided to go as myself, not Lila, and play it off as a coincidence. That night, I dressed sharper than usual, navy blazer, white shirt, my best jeans, and headed to the bar. The city skyline sparkled below, but my nerves were a mess. When Nate arrived, he looked incredible in a black leather jacket, his blonde hair catching the neon lights. He spotted me, confusion flickering across his face. "Brandon, what are you doing here?" I stammered. "Just grabbing a drink." He bought it, or so I thought. We ended up talking for hours, the conversation flowing like we'd known each other forever. He opened up about Lila, how much he liked her but felt she was holding back. Guilt gnawed at me. I wanted to tell him the truth, but every time I opened my mouth, the words wouldn't come. As we left the bar, he stopped me, his hand brushing my arm. "You're different, Brandon," he said softly. "I don't know why, but I feel like I can be myself around you." My heart stopped. For a moment, I thought he knew. But he just smiled, and I realized I was falling for him, for real. The rooftop night changed everything. I couldn't keep up the charade, but I couldn't confess either. Nate's texts to Lila were now laced with frustration. She kept dodging his request to meet, and he was starting to pull away. Meanwhile, he was texting me, "Brandon," more often, asking to hang out. Each message felt like a lifeline and a noose. One evening, we ended up at a park near campus, just the two of us. The autumn leaves crunched under our feet as we walked, the city humming in the distance. Nate was quieter than usual, his hands stuffed in his pockets. "You ever feel like someone's not who they say they are?" he asked suddenly. My blood ran cold. I mumbled something about people being complicated, but he pressed on. "This girl, Lila, I think she's hiding something." I wanted to scream the truth, to tell him Lila was me, that I'd started this to hurt him, but ended up hurting myself. Instead, I changed the subject, pointing out a street performer playing a violin. He let it go, but the tension lingered. That night, he sent Lila a message. "I can't keep chasing someone who won't show up. Tell me who you really are, or I'm done." Panic set in. I couldn't lose him, not as Lila, not as Brandon. I called Marcus, my voice shaking as I spilled everything. He didn't sugarcoat it. "You're in love with him, idiot. And you're going to lose him if you don't come clean." Love. The word hit like a brick. Was that what this was? The ache in my chest. The way I replayed every moment with Nate? I wasn't ready to admit it, but I knew Marcus was right. I decided to tell Nate the truth, but not over text. I asked him to meet me at the park the next day, as Brandon. When he showed up, his face was guarded, like he sensed something was coming. I took a deep breath and started talking about Lila, the prank, my anger at him, and how it all spiraled out of control. His expression shifted from confusion to shock to something I couldn't read. "You're Lila," he whispered, his voice raw. I nodded, bracing for anger. But instead, he laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "I fell for you. Both of you." My heart stopped. He stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. "Why didn't you just tell me?" I was scared, I admitted. "Of you." of this. I gestured between us, my voice cracking. For a moment, we just stood there, the weight of my confession hanging in the air. Then he did something I didn't expect. He hugged me. Not a bro hug, but something deeper, warmer. "I'm not mad," he said. "I'm just confused." Nate's hug lingered in my mind for days, but so did his confusion. We didn't talk much after that night. He needed space, and I couldn't blame him. I'd lied to him, manipulated him, and now I was grappling with feelings I'd never let myself acknowledge. I was gay, and I was in love with the guy I'd set out to destroy. The irony wasn't lost on me. I threw myself into my art, sketching portraits of Nate from memory, his sharp jawline, his guarded smile. Marcus caught me one day, staring at a half-finished drawing. "You got it bad," he said, smirking. But his tone softened. "Go fix this, Brandon. He deserves it." "So do you." Fixing it wasn't easy. Nate started avoiding me on campus, his text to both Lila and Brandon going silent. I felt like I'd lost something I hadn't even fully had. But I wasn't giving up. I started small, leaving a sketch of Max, his dog, outside his dorm with a note, "I'm sorry. Let's talk." He didn't respond, but I kept going, leaving little gifts, an indie band playlist, a coffee shop coupon. Each one was an apology, a plea. One evening, he finally texted, "Meet me at the rooftop bar." 8 p.m. My heart raced as I got ready, choosing the same blazer from our first night there. When I arrived, he was already there, leaning against the railing, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. He looked tired, but not angry. "You hurt me," he said, his voice steady. "But I can't stop thinking about you." I poured out everything, my fear, my confusion, the way he made me confront who I really was. He listened, his expression softening. "I'm not perfect either," he admitted. "I was a jerk to you for years. I guess we both messed up." He paused, then added, "But I meant what I said. I fell for you, Brandon. Not Lila." We talked until the bar closed, laying bare our insecurities, our hopes. It wasn't a fairy tale moment, no grand gestures, no cinematic kiss. But it was real. As we walked out into the chilly night, he took my hand, and I felt something shift, a new beginning, fragile but full of possibility. Months passed, and Nate and I rebuilt something new, not a prank, not a lie, but a real connection. It wasn't easy. We had to navigate his teammates' raised eyebrows, my own lingering doubts, and the weight of our past. But every step felt worth it. We'd go on late-night walks through the city, sharing earbuds and playlists, or sit in my dorm, sketching while he studied. He even started coming to my art shows, cheering louder than anyone. One evening, in that same park where I confessed, we stood under a canopy of golden leaves. He looked at me, his green eyes steady. "I'm glad you trolled me," he said, a grin tugging at his lips. "It led me to you." My heart swelled, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I was hiding. I leaned in, and when our lips met, it was like the world finally made sense. The prank that started it all was a mistake, but it taught me something profound. Sometimes, the masks we wear lead us to truths we're too scared to face alone. Nate and I weren't perfect, but we were honest about who we were, who we loved, and the messy, beautiful journey we'd taken to get there. in a city of millions. We found each other, not through lies, but through the courage to be real.